Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Laura Talks. I hope you guys had a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. I'm back today to talk about Thief of Lives. This is the second book in the Noble Dead series. It comes after Dhampir. It is also by Barb and J.C. Hendee. Um, So, in order to talk about this book, I'm also going to kind of recap what happened in Dhampir. So, if you haven't read Dhampir yet, and you care about spoilers, then pause this video and go read Dhampir. Um, before I get into the book, kind of a funny story. This was the first book of this series that I read because I found it in a local used bookstore and I was intrigued by the name, so I picked it up. Somehow I missed the very obvious hint that this is a sequel, but I read it anyways and I enjoyed it. And then, probably about halfway through the book, I realized, oh yeah, this isn't um, a standalone book. It's in a series, and it's also not the first book in a series. So that's when I went back and I found Dhampir and I found a couple other books in the series. Um, but yeah, I really liked it. So in Dhampir, Majir, Liesel, Chap, they moved to a town that has, surprise, surprise, vampires in it. And during the fight with those vampires, they learn about Chap's nature a little bit. Um, Before they even arrive at the town, when they're traveling through the woods, and they come across the first like half wild vampire. He went down, I think they call it the feral path. Um, Chap was the one that told Majir to cut off the head um, of the vampire, which is one of the ways that you can make sure they're actually dead. So that was the first little hint. The second hint is that throughout the book, he seems to be able to smell or sense the presence of a vampire, and that continues in this book. He continues being able to track vampires and help the team in that way. Um, so, as you remember from Dhampir, um, in the climax of the fight scene, Liesel ends up burning down the main warehouse in their town, um, and which obviously is a really big problem, because that's where most of the town works. So in this book, it opens with, well, not opens with, but there's a kind of a smaller warehouse that all the business has moved to, and the owner of that warehouse is taking advantage of the fact that it's now the only warehouse in town. Um, and yes, it's a good thing that there are no longer vampires in the town, but it's a bad thing that now all of the business goes through this corrupt place. So, when Majir and Liesel get a letter from the city of Bella, which is a bigger city a little bit up the coast, saying, "We need your help. We think we also have a vampire. We will pay you this amount of money," which would be enough money to rebuild the warehouse and a little bit extra. They kind of feel like they're obligated to go. So they do go, and another, moving back in time a little bit, another thing that we learned about in Dhampir was Majir's nature as a Dhampir. She healed herself drinking from Liesel's blood, which messed both of them up a little bit mentally. Um, and she was also able to give herself some extra human strength and a couple other things. And that continues to happen in this book. Um, they come to Bella and they do their investigating. Um, and in this book, we meet a lot of new characters that are very important. Um, and of course, there's also a character from Dhampir that we meet again, Rat Boy, or in this book, he has decided to name himself Tourette. And of course, he's the one vampire that managed to survive. And he has made himself some vampire family, and he is the reason that Majir and Liesel were called there. Him and his family. One of his family members, Sapphire, does not have the self control that a vampire needs to survive long term. So, bodies pile up. Majir and Liesel get called. One of Tourette's new minions is called Chane. And we meet Chane. The first time we meet him is actually, I think, when he goes to the local Scholars Guild and he talks to Wynn and her teacher, Wynn Heigerot. I'm honestly not sure how to pronounce her name. Um, but those two characters, I love them so much. If there's any characters in this book that give me brain rot, it is them. And you will not be able to guess where their story goes. There are so many times where you think, okay, this has to be it. This has to be where their arc ends, and you're just wrong. You will not be able to guess the ending, and that's part of what I love about them. Um, but I digress. They are amazing characters in their own right, and together they're both amazing. Um, Chane, in his mortal life, was the son of a noble, so, he didn't do much with his life, but he did study magic a little bit, which is part of why Tourette turned him. He also does know how to fight with a sword, which being able to protect yourself as a vampire is a good thing. And then Wynn is a scholar, and she's a language specialist. So, her guild, I can't remember what the name of the guild is, but she works for a scholars guild, and, so in this world there are two continents, and the continent, that Wynn's guild is originally from is like the older continent with longer established civilizations, more of a culture, more of like an academically speaking culture. This continent also has a culture. It's just, it's like less history, less. It hasn't been established for as long. That's what I'm trying to say. But the guild has sent some people over here to try and start a branch on this continent, and Wynn is one of those people. Because she's a language expert, she can help translate transcripts that they find on this continent. And the guild has been studying the Forgotten War, which scholars, even within the guild, they argue about whether or not it actually happened because it was so long ago and there's so few records, and the records are in languages that have been dead for so long. So any translations they have are not going to be that great. Um, but yeah, that's why Wynn and her guild are on this continent. And Chane meets up with the guild at least once a week because he wants to be a scholar. He realizes that, he kind of wasted his mortal life, but now he has time to study, and he can, even though he can't go out during the day, he can pretend to be a normal person with these people, and he can learn and he can better himself. Um, so that's Chane and Wynn. Another character that we meet later on in the book, probably about halfway through. His name is Sgaile, and well, that's the shortened version of his name, and he is an elf from this continent. Um, Minor spoiler, later on you'll learn that there are elves on both continents, but the elves on this continent, um, their leader has not told them about the elves on the other continent, and there's a huge amount of history there. And this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but that's one thing I think that the Hendees could have done a little bit better. I think they could have done a little bit more world building. Because these books aren't huge. There are a lot of places where they could have gone a little bit further into the history, given a little bit more detail. Um, you know, just given it a little bit more depth. Um, but I digress. Sgaile is one of the elves, and he is an elven assassin. And they call their group the Enmaglak, which I am not pronouncing that correctly, because I don't speak Elvish. I think their books have guides. Their books, some of the books have guides on pronunciation. I don't know if they actually have books on the complete language. I'm not sure if they actually created a complete language or just created parts of it. Um, but he is an older elf in the Enmaglak, the assassins. Um, and minor spoiler, he was sent to kill Liesel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was just sent to kill Liesel. But he doesn't because he sees Chap, and he knows something is special about Chap, so that's why he doesn't kill Liesel. And there's a minor confrontation where they meet face to face. I won't spoil that. Um, but I really like the character of Sgaile. Um, he plays a minor part in this book, but he plays a major part in future books. I think that's all I will say about him. Um, those are the major characters you meet in the book. Let me think. Is there anything else important? Um, oh yeah. There is. There's a big reveal about Westiel and who he is. Um, I won't give that away because that is a big spoiler. And if you read Dhampir, you might have your guesses. So if you want to confirm what your guesses are about Westiel, I highly suggest reading Thief of Lives. Again, I love this series. It's a great series by Barb and J.C. Hendee. Um, I think that's all I wanted to say about Thief of Lives. Um, as usual, this video is to raise awareness about the GoFundMe I made for my sister. I was able to talk to her over the holiday weekend, and they do have enough money to pay for rent for January. And she said that is thanks to the GoFundMe. So, any donations will be used for the medical bill from the hospital. Because neither of them are working right now, all of their money has been going towards rent and not the bill. So they still have to pay the medical bill. Um, as a reminder, any donors get to, um, sorry, my mind just blanked. Any people who donate get to suggest a topic for Off Topic Tuesday, which is tomorrow. So I think I'll probably keep recording videos this late at night just because, um, consistency's sake. So you will have about 24 hours to donate, suggest a topic, um, and it can be anything that one is allowed on YouTube. Um, but there are some topics that I'm personally not comfortable talking about. Um, you can still suggest it, because it would take a long time to just walk through the list. Um, but yeah, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.